The audience at the Pierhead building in Cardiff Bay were told about the myth which is creating a divide in our society. Professor John Hill says in his book, Good Times, Bad Times, the welfare myth of them and us, that the welfare system isn't being as badly abused as we're being led to believe.
I think often when we talk about the way public policy works, the way the welfare state operates, we're persuaded that we're talking about two different groups of people. The people who benefit, the people with their curtains drawn in mid-morning, and the people who are paying for it, the people who are taxpayers, hard-working, never draw any benefits, are spending their whole time paying for this other unchanging group of people who are out of work, who are getting all the goodies. But if you look at the evidence, it's not like that, or at least the most of what's going on is not like that. People who start a claim for job seekers allowance, if you look across the whole country, most people think that about half of those people will still be unemployed a year later. In fact, half of people who go on to benefit only stay on it for 2 months, no more than that. There's a lot of movement, and we know that from our own lives, that our lives are complicated, those of our children are complicated, but we forget about that when we subscribe to the rhetoric of this group of them as opposed to us who are paying for the system.
And that divide causes a lot of ill feeling, doesn't it, on both sides?
I think it causes a lot of resentment, and that's often reinforced by the way people are portrayed in the media and certainly the way they're spoken about by politicians. It also, I think, sometimes we're given the impression that most of the money is being spent on a group of people who are described as undeserving. Not people who are out of work because their factories closed down, but somehow people who've chosen never to work. And we tend to forget that most of the money that we spend, the very big numbers that are often quoted, are spent on the National Health Service, from which we all benefit, are spent on schools, from which we all benefit at one stage in our lives, are spent on pensions, are spent on other pensioner benefits. If you look at it all together, out of every £12.50 that we spend on the welfare state, only £1 of that £12.50 is going to people who are of working age, who are currently out of work, and actually only 20 pence of that £12.50 is going to people who are, quotes, unemployed. And remember that, a lot of those people were paying taxes in the past. Many of us, all of us, I hope, who are paying taxes today will go on to receive pensions in the future. All of us have a much bigger stake in the system than we often think, and therefore sometimes the political debate goes awry in forgetting about that.
Professor Hills wants to see a more level-headed and reasonable debate about the welfare system, and many of those attending this event down the Bay said they'd learnt much which they could put to use in the future.
I think it's really interesting to actually look at over someone's whole lifetime how they actually benefit from the welfare state, and it isn't all about scroungers as is sometimes portrayed in the media, so people who maybe are not entitled to benefits, and actually there are very low levels of fraud within the benefit system, and that's what the research today showed. What we also know is that people across their whole lifetime will benefit from the welfare state in different ways. So people might benefit when they're out of work for short periods, but also people benefit in terms of health, education, and also pensions when they get to retirement age. And I think that's really important, and it's a key message for us to make sure that we communicate more broadly. As a Citizens Advice Service, we see people from across Wales who experience problems at difficult and different times in their lives, and who come to us for support around benefits. But in a vast majority of cases, they're for short-term reasons. So I think today was really helpful in explaining that.